So we're here with Coach Ron Collins. He's the linebacker coach and co-defensive coordinator for Ohio University. Coach, thank you for being with us today.
All right, thanks, Evan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so, Coach, can you introduce yourself? You've been at Ohio for the past 6 years, have some great success with your defense, and specifically the linebackers. Can you just give us a background of your college coaching career?
Sure. I started my coaching career at Washington University in St. Louis, which is a Division III school, and then progressed to Boise State, which I was there for 5 years, and then went to the University of Colorado, where I coached you. I was there for 5 years, and then I've been here at Ohio University for the past 6 years. And along the way, been very fortunate to have, quite a few great linebackers that have played for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about, and specifically, the linebacker position. What do you look for when you're recruiting a linebacker? Some coaches say the guy has to be 6'4", 250 or something like that. What do you look for when you're recruiting a guy?
Well, Evan, we've never been, totally into the cookie cutter thing. We definitely would like to have an intelligent guy, first, because a lot of times, in a linebacker position, you got direct traffic and, set fronts and that kind of thing. So I like guys that are smart. So that's number one. I like guys that have long highlight films. Certainly when I start recruiting them and I get a highlight film, I want something more than 3 minutes, of highlights. And so, I like to see a guy that has, quite a few plays on there. And then we also want to watch the games of those guys. But I would like to have tough kids, and we find that out through the coach. So, those guys need to know that their coach is basically their resume, their reference and on their resume. And so, from the information I'm going to get from the coach is, GPA. So is he smart? Is he tough? Is he a hard worker? Is he a captain type guy? How well does he interact with the guys in the locker room? We want guys that are very good in the locker room. And then, are they competitors? And, do they love football? And are they willing to get out there and compete every day? Love football and compete.
Mm-hmm. Well, can we talk about Quentin Poland? We'll say Quentin Poland, he doesn't have what you want to say, the NFL size linebacker type, but he's doing a phenomenal job for you guys there at Ohio. Can you talk about his recruiting process when you guys were recruiting him?
One of the things that I liked about Quentin was he was a multiple sport athlete. I think that's another thing, that I didn't touch on earlier. I like to see guys that are multiple sport athletes. The other thing with Quentin, he was, an offensive player, so I like to see those guys, carry the ball, whether a tailback or what have you. I think there's a lot of correlation between a tailback and a linebacker. But Quentin was a really good track athlete. I mean, he was a 52nd 400-meter runner. He put the shot 53 feet. So there was a lot of things there you looked at and you go, okay, that guy's pretty explosive, And then he's a 4.0 student. And Quentin's height-wise, yeah, you're right. He's probably not an NFL, 6'2", 6'3" guy. But, he weighs 240 pounds and we're clocking him in the low 4.6s in the 40s. So, but he does everything for us. He sets traffic. I mean, he directs the traffic. He sets the front. He's our big communicator. And I'll tell you, a couple of years ago when he was playing, we were 8-0 when he played, and then we were like 0-4 when he didn't play. So that tells you a little something about him.
Wow, okay.
And he's a guy that's always around the ball, very instinctual.
Mm-hmm. Also, Coach, can you talk a little bit about special teams, especially at the linebacker position? How you guys rely on them as special teams players, because you see guys when they're hiring the linebacker plays, but guys don't realize when you come into college and you're a freshman, you're going to be asked to step in on that special teams position.
Yes. Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, for our guys, all linebackers that are travelers, I mean, they all have to be able to play special teams. I mean, that's a huge thing. Now we're a 4-3 defense, but when you start getting into nickel and dime defenses because of the way spread offenses are now, teams aren't carrying as many linebackers, so that makes it difficult on the special teams. But our guys, man, they got a cover on the punt and the kickoff units, and then they're huge on the punt return and kickoff return, but every one of my guys that travels is on special teams. I mean, even Quentin Poling, who's been a starter for me now for 3 years, this is going on his 4th year, he goes down on kickoff for me. So I ask all those guys to perform on one special team. So that is huge. I mean, for your team's success, that you have a good core of linebackers that can play special teams.
Okay. You had 2 guys get drafted this year from your defense. I believe it was Javon Johnson and Blair Brown.
It was Blair Brown and Terrell Basham.
Blair Brown was the linebacker, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he's with Jacksonville now.
Okay. Can you tell us what made him special? You think that the NFL teams took that chance on him, and then the job he did for you at Ohio?
Well, Blair came a long ways. I mean, he's from when he was a freshman to this year, but he just kept getting better and better this past season. But Blair is one of those guys that's very instinctual. He sees things very well. He was very 5'11" and 3/4, but very explosive and very, very fast, and he's fast to the ball. So, again, in our defense, I mean, he had, I think, 15.5 tackles for loss, and at the linebacker spot. So, he's attacking downhill and getting after it. So the strength of Blair was, his run stopping ability. Where Blair's got to get better is in his pass defense. So he's got some things that he's got to get better at. But man, you talk about an explosive dude. I mean, he's 40-inch vertical, and he's 4'6" and a 40 at 240 pounds. I mean, the guy was a rock.
Yeah, he's moving. Then I want to also touch on the smart football players. I remember when you were recruiting me, the first thing you did was you put me on the whiteboard. When people think about smart, of course you think about classroom smart, but also when you talk about football smartness.
Right.
When you talk about football smartness, can you tell the recruits what exactly are you speaking of?
Hang on one second. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so can you repeat that question again, Evan? I'm sorry.
Yep. When you were talking about you like smart football players, I remember one of the first things you did when you were recruiting me was you put me on the whiteboard. Can you talk a little bit about the football smartness when you're talking about coverages? You're talking about when you use terminologies like playing downhill.
Right.
When you're using terminology like LOS and things like that. Just those little things that you look for in a player.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, when I get a guy on the board, I want to know that he has some functionality in terms of, does he know what the other moving parts are in the defense, not just himself. And I think that's huge. Now, not everybody's great on the board because people are taught differently. But what I want to know is, okay, if I show you something, can you get back up there and repeat it to me? And the other thing about coaching linebackers is people learn differently. You ask about the intelligence, and to me, with the world of cell phones and all this stuff, everybody's attention span is really, really short these days. So, I try to do different, teach different ways, on the grease board, with film, on the field, walkthroughs, those kind of things, because I think guys learn different ways. You can see some guys writing in a notebook, when you're up there talking, they're just constantly writing. Other guys are just staring at you, because they're like, hey, I'll just put me out there on the field, let me show you what I can do. But I think that those guys that do know, what the other moving parts are, those guys have a really good chance of getting on the field.
Nice. Also, Coach, you've had the opportunity. You've coached at a Division III school, and you've coached at a mid-major school. You coached at a big conference school. What can you say are the differences? Are there any huge differences in playing the linebacker position or being a linebacker recruit from playing at those different levels of college football?
coaching's coaching. It's probably no different for you where you're at right now. I mean, we're all coaching the same techniques. We're all doing that. I think that sure, as you go up the ladder, everybody's bigger, faster, stronger, right? So and those guys, as you get more toward the Power 5 level, our level, I think that the guys that are at the Division III level were not, they weren't quite as tall, fast, or strong, and as at this level, and definitely at when we were at Colorado, but I think they all are taught the same. I haven't, I've been coaching the same way, throughout my whole career. So that part's the same, but I just think, the more you get up the ladder, the bigger, faster, stronger you are. So.
Yeah. Okay. Coach, I think that's about it. I really appreciate you taking the time out, getting ready for camp. Can you also tell us about what you guys got going on this coming fall and what your expectations from your linebacker core this year?
We're starting camp on Monday. So, expectations are for our guys to get better every day, and hopefully as we get on and progress and these guys do the things they're supposed to do, our expectations are to take this deal one step at a time and continue to get better, stay healthy throughout the season, and be competitive in each one of these games. Last year, all of our games were won or lost by 7 points, so there's a real fine line between winning and losing. And so, we got to find that extra edge to get us over the hump in some of the games we've lost. So, but our guys, I was prepared. So that's the biggest thing going into fall camp.
Perfect. Coach, I really appreciate you and good luck this season. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Evan. Appreciate you.
Thank you.